Hello everyone, I got something kind of a little bit interesting today, especially for myself, because I always as someone who's been heavily into video games from a young age, always like to explore sort of new consoles, new games, especially older ones that I haven't necessarily played or haven't necessarily heard of. So this is the PC Engine CoreGrafx Mini from Konami. This is something I don't really know too much about, so I'm going in a little bit blind. I've, of course, had the chance to play a little bit before recording this video just to test everything works, so got a little bit of an idea of some of the games on here, and looked a little bit at the history of it. So the CoreGrafx, also known as the TurboGrafx 16 elsewhere, came out in 1987 in Japan. It didn't get released in America until 1989, didn't get released in Europe until 1990. It's technically an 8-bit console. I believe it's a modified 8-bit CPU in there, so it has the power of, say, the NES or the Master System, but I believe around the time it released, it was kind of going up against the SNES and the Mega Drive. So I'm not really sure how well this did in the West. I'm pretty sure it did okay-ish in Japan and those regions, but it's not something I spent a lot of time doing research on. Like I say, I'm going in a little bit blind here. So what you get with this is you get, as you would expect, the mini console and the controller, and you get an array of games. Now, quite interesting this is, a lot of these mini consoles will either release the same games all the way around the world, or they'll release region-specific games. So I believe with the PlayStation Mini, which is one that I didn't really go for because I heard it was quite disappointing, you had certain games released for the PlayStation Mini in Japan, and other games for the one in the West. What you get here is you get your games for our region. So these ones are all in English, and, you know, completely playable. Then you get this array here, which is called the PC Engine games. Now, these are all in their original native Japanese. So, unfortunately, some of them, particularly, I believe, East 1 and 2 and Snatcher, probably won't be playable unless you're quite fluent in Japanese because they're quite narrative-driven games. I'm not quite sure about the rest of them. Some of them I can kind of look at and guess that they'll be perfectly playable. Galaga, Fantasy Zone, Choniki, Gradius, those will be quite playable because they're shoot-em-ups. So the main thing I know about this is it's really good if you are a shoot-em-up fan. I'm perfectly, happy with a good shoot-em-up, but for me, mostly it's about exploring a world of games that I don't know too much about. So let's open up the box and see what you get in there. So, we'll have a look. We've got the instruction manual, which you expect, tells you how to set it up. Like I said, I've already had a look at this, so this is why there's no sort of plastic packaging in there. So you get a USB cable. There was also a HDMI cable in there for connecting it, and you get the TurboGrafx itself. Or the CoreGrafx, or the PC Engine, depending on where you're from. It's got about 3 different names. So it's quite a nice looking console. Let's have a look. You got your power switch there, which is big and green. Got 2 USB slots there for your controllers. On the back, you've got what would be extension port area, but you take that off, and that's where you plug in your HDMI cable and your USB cable for powering it. So it's quite nice, very lightweight. It's the same as a lot of these retro consoles, in that they feel perfectly fine and they look fine. There's never really been one that I've came across I thought, oh, that's not very nice. And to be honest, I've got a limited pool of them, which, we'll compare in a moment to the other ones I do have. So we'll set that one down, and we'll get the controller out. So I mentioned the console kind of 8-bit architecture, fits in with that 8-bit controller. Very similar to your Master System, and NES controller. D-pad, you've got select and run. You've got, a 1 and 2 button there. And I believe these are for turbo functions, which not really something I've massively used in games, but I guess they might come in useful for this. So it's a nice controller, feels pretty decent hold. Nice quality plastic on it. The only difference with this one and the other retro mini consoles that I've got is this only came with 1 controller, which is a little bit disappointing if I'm being honest with you, because a lot of these older consoles and a lot of the games featured on them have two-player modes, so it's always good if you've got friends over, stick one of these on and you have, a decent two-player game. But the one thing that this does have which I like is a USB port, so you could theoretically use this in a PC or Raspberry Pi if it has the applicable functionality for it, like you could the Mega Drive controller. So we'll just compare this console to the other mini consoles I've got. So we've got the SNES Mini, which I'll just pull across. That's the SNES Mini there. And we've got my favourite of the bunch, which is the Mega Drive Mini, which looks a little bit dusty, but this is probably my favourite retro mini console out there, just in terms of what I've seen and what I've got myself. Like I said, I've only got these, so I have not got a huge bed to compare them to, but even looking at the other ones, as much as I grew up with PlayStation, this one is my favourite mini console, just because I really do love what Sega did in those retro days. Even though I didn't necessarily grow up with owning the consoles, just there's something about what happened with the Mega Drive I do like, and going on record, Sonic 2 is my ultimate comfort game. I could just play that anytime. In fact, I completed it the other day, just, threw it on. I was like, I'm going to complete this today, have a lot of fun with it. Really do like that. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap over and play a few of these games, show you a bit of in-game footage, show you the menus, the layout of them all, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So, let's go over to the actual gameplay. And welcome back. So this is the main screen of the CoreGrafx Mini. So before this you had the language setup, but I've already tested this, so we know that already works. So let's just go through the various games we have on there. So Alien Crush, this is one of the games I tried out. It's a really, really fun pinball game. Blazing Lasers, just tried that one out. It's a side-scrolling, or vertical shooter. Dungeon Explorer, we've got Moto Roader, Power Golf, which looks like it'll be a joyous time. R-Type is a game I grew up with on the Amiga, which is incredibly good, incredibly hard, has a fantastic soundtrack, as a lot of those games did. I'm quite interested to see how that one holds up against the Amiga version, because I think, you grow up with a certain console or a certain system, and you think that one's the pinnacle. Victory Run, looks like a cool racing game. Chu Man Fu, I have no idea what that is. JJ and Jeff, the name of that one amuses me. Military Madness, possibly another shoot 'em up. Utopia, I have no idea. Ninja Spirit, possibly some sort of fighting. Psychosis. Space Harrier, I have played that in either Yakuza or Shenmue, I can't quite remember. Splathouse is a pretty infamous game which I've never played. East 1 and 2, RPG games. Bonk's Revenge, going to be a pretty decent platformer. Kadash, no idea. Parasol Stars is one that interests me. I grew up with Rainbow Island and Bubble Bobble. This is the third game in that series, and I've never played this one. Airzonk looks amusing. Utopia 2, New Adventure Island, not much going on there. Soldier Blade, looks like another shoot 'em up. Bomberman is Bomberman, everyone knows that. Lords of Thunder is a pretty much the name of a Kiss album. So that's all the games you have in the English version. If we scroll down here, we can select console, we can swap to PC Engine. And then we have all of the games that are in Japanese. We've got the Kung Fu, not just any Kung Fu, the Kung Fu. Jaisuken Necromancer, Galaga 88, Fantasy Zone, that's one of the ones I tried when I was testing it out as well. It's not even a side, well, it's a side scroller, but you go in both directions, which is quite interesting. Dragon Spirit, Apare, Gataball, Nectaris, Dungeon Explorer again, Utopia, PC Genjin. I'm not even going to try and pronounce half of the ones coming up. Super Darius, the Genji and the Heike clans, Superstar Soldier, The Legend of Valkyrie, Aldines, Surai, Senshi Spriggan. I've heard of Spriggan. I'm sure I've seen that pop up on other things before. Got Utopia again, Gradius, Salamander. Keep going along. So Snatcher is one that came up in when I was showing the console off. Snatcher is a
Very narrative-driven game. It's one of Hideo Kojima's earlier ones. You can kind of tell just by looking at the front that it's kind of Hideo Kojima. Unfortunately, I believe the only English translation for this is on the Mega CD, and the cost of it is very prohibitively expensive. Kind of a similar vein to Panzer Dragoon Saga on the Sega Saturn. So, unfortunately, it's in the original Japanese here, which is a massive shame because I would absolutely love to try this one out, if only just to try it out. I don't know how well it holds up nowadays, but it's always one of those infamous games you hear of. Gradius again, Showaniki, which is absolutely bizarre. This is a Castlevania game which exists on the PlayStation 4 now. It's released in a double pack, so this does have an English translation now, but I believe it took some time to get one. Bomberman 94, another Bomberman game. And there we go. So we'll go up back to the TurboGrafx or the CoreGrafx, or why did this console have 3 different names? Have a quick look at the settings menu. Nothing too much going on here. Display settings, you can select whether it's full screen, widescreen, or sits in this little express style. Go down to wallpaper, you select the wallpaper, sit in the background of your games. Your menu design, do you want PC Engine or CoreGrafx? Let's return to the menu. So let's actually load up a game and see how it is. So let's load up R-Type to start with. Like I say, I grew up playing this one on the Amiga. I was absolutely dreadful at it. I most likely still will be. R-Type is absolutely classic side-scroller. So you use the 2 button to take out waves of enemies. So it's been a very long time since I've done a live sort of recording while talking style thing, so you will excuse me if it goes just a little bit silent for a time. I'm concentrating very hard, and this is not the best game to ease myself back into that type of thing. This is, I'm doing better than I expected. So I'm very, very used to the Amiga version of this, and the Amiga version did look very different. Oh, so many things on screen at a time. So now remember this little bit here. All of these that would just absolutely tear you apart, and we're through. You can see I got a little power up earlier, which sort of serves as a shield. Not that it helps much because there's, like I say, so much going on screen, and I am dead. So it's pretty generous with checkpoints. It started me off pretty early on, but again, so much going on screen here at a time. We'll get an M for missiles. Oh, nice. That's handy. Oh, and here he comes. Oh, and I'm dead again. Starts me off back here again. Oh, and I'm dead again. Game over. Wasn't very good at it back in the day, still not very good at it now. So you press start and select and run to get back to this screen, and it's very, if you've played one of these mini consoles before, it'll be very familiar. Save state, load state, return to menu, resume game. The one thing is they're not very different from one another. Let's go through again. And let's try Parasol Stars. So this is one that I mentioned did interest me. I grew up with Bubble Bobble Rainbow Islands. Absolutely perfect arcade games. Really, really fun with 2 players. And Parasol Stars I've heard of, but never really had the chance to play. So what you do, it seems to be more in line with Rainbow Islands than Bubble Bobble. It's always interesting because Bubble Bobble came out, and then you had Rainbow Islands, and I'm dead. And Rainbow Islands didn't really look anything like Bubble Bobble. So it looks like what you've got here is you run around with this parasol, you collect fruit and kill enemies, and you use your parasol to kill the enemies. So let's So I can use these to do that and fire it at the... Oh! Throw a piano at people. Oh, and I'm dead again. Ah, there we go. So, pick up these bubbles, throw them at the enemies to kill the enemy. And there we go. And we got it clear. So it gives me a little bit of time to pick up every item on the stage. It looks very much like Bubble Bobble and Rainbow Islands. But Rainbow Islands was a little bit different. In fact, you were climbing stages, so... And Bubble Bobble and Rainbow Islands have been ported to everything. I'm actually kind of surprised that this never appeared on these. Oh, no, those not compilations as well. I do actually have Bubble Bobble and Rainbow Islands on my Sega Saturn. And I would love to be able to record that. But unfortunately, getting the equipment to record the Saturn is a bit trickier than it is anything with HDMI output. So we'll come out of this. It's incredibly fun. And let's swap over to one of the PC Engine games. And I think what I'll show off for that, as much as I'd love to show off, there we go, we'll show off Fantasy Zone. So I know for a fact I have played this on something before. I'm thinking either Yakuza or Shenmue, but it could just be a random compilation. So the idea is you traverse the map. You can see at the bottom I've got several dots that seem to represent points on the map. I'm going to take out these enemies. So take these out, and as you see, as I take out an enemy, it corresponds to... Oh, we get money as well. I'll be attacked constantly. So it corresponds to one of the dots, and I think the aim is to probably take out all of them. But yeah, like in contrast to a lot of shoot-'em-ups, side scrolls or vertical scrollers, this you have control over where you go on the map, which is quite cool. Oh, and I'm dead. Oh, nice, start me right next to them. So I don't know if maybe the more of them I take out, the more... Oh, I ran right into that one. Very well, very good smart. Very good smart words. Oh, and I did it again. Like I say, I was never very good at a lot of these games. But as you can see, there's kind of a lot to explore on this little console. You have, your array of games that I suppose were released in the West, and a lot of games that were maybe Japan only. It holds up very well. The games feel nice to play. The controller's nice. There's not too much more I can say about it. It feels like a nice bit of kit for the money. It's about £100, so quite more on the expensive side of these mini consoles. So it's a tough one to maybe recommend, but I'm not really interested in recommending them as such, though. It's, I'm interested in exploring these world of games that I don't really know too much about, and I think I'll have quite a lot of fun with it. The main downside, I guess, is that it only comes with one controller. It'd be really cool if it came with 2 controllers. But I suppose that's just the way things go. But thank you all very much for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video.